Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. For those who are new, my name is Maurice Jr. What we do here is help people stay connected to their dreams and goals. And today we have one of the legends from Youngstown. I love it. I love it. He's very humble, but hey, we definitely know if anyone knows anything about Youngstown and specifically the Buckeye Review, individuals will know. We'll dive into that a bit here in a few. But overall, Mr. McNair, would you mind just introducing yourself and giving everyone just an overview of who you are?
Okay, sure. My name is Mike McNair. I'm the publisher of the Buckeye Review. It's the Black Press of Youngstown, member of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. So we're a network with Black newspapers around the country. And I have owned and operated that with my wife, for the past 25 years. It was founded in 1937 in Youngstown. Of course, the Black Press in America was founded much sooner than that. And we have some legends that have come through the Buckeye Review, and we've kind of, like Judge Jones and the guy who recently passed away, who took the pictures of the Emmett Till funeral and lynching down in Mississippi. And he was with the Buckeye Review, and then he went to the Jet magazine. He was a national figure. His name escapes me right now. It'll come back to me in a second. But the Black Press is an important venue for our information, and I've been proud to be associated with it for a while, only because most of our education in this country is from a dominant perspective, meaning it's we've been miseducated, right?
Absolutely.
So we've been educated. We've been educated through the perspective of the dominant society, and I was too. So as we progress in life, we kind of learn that, okay, we have this dual consciousness, right? Which is why I like what you're doing. We have this dual consciousness. Like, I have to know what the dominant society knows about finance, about education, about the classical education, economics. I have to know that, right? But I also have to know that there's another set of rules that apply to me because of the color of my skin. And while it's an unfortunate reality, it's a real thing that we deal with. And I think the more venues that encourage people to be inspired and not discouraged by that situation, the better.
Absolutely.
The more, the better. So, I'm happy to do that. I also do psychotherapy. I'm an independent licensed psychotherapist, and work with veterans and with individuals with mental health issues, and through counseling. And my particular passion is marriage and family. So I've been doing marriage and family therapy for several years as well. And of course, in that we do through the prism and perspective of African Americans, even though I have clients who are not African American, and that's cool too, because everybody has issues, right?
Absolutely.
It all comes down to personal relationships. So that's a little bit about me. I don't know. I've been married. I'm married 47 years. I have 3 adult children, and each of them are married, and they have 2 kids each. So I'm really proud of how they're doing. They have advanced degrees and raising their families in different parts of the country, and they're not coming back to Youngstown, unfortunately. That's cool.
Absolutely. That was
You're not
a
coming.
no. Youngstown is where my heart is, but my home is now in Atlanta, Georgia here. Man, but that was a very thorough introduction. One piece I definitely want to touch on is just high school and having exposure, to Myra and sisters and different things of that nature. But the most important piece is just Myron. And the reason why I say Myron is because I was the one that was in the grade level with him. Not only that, when we went through college and we matriculated through college at Central State University together, I noticed that his value, his norms, and his beliefs were different than a lot of individuals coming from Youngstown. But the reason why I point that out is just knowing you and hearing your background here, growing up, what was mission critical that you made sure that Myron knew as a man, or something that you knew when he went away for college or different things of that nature? Because I know Myron went to Central State, going to an HBCU, and I think did Melody go to Howard or something?
Yeah, Melanie went to Howard, right.
Mhm. So was
Actually,
that?
well,
Go ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
was it was important for us to expose our children to higher education in the HBCU setting if possible, right? So out of all three of them were exposed. My oldest didn't like it, so she went to Kent and she graduated, from YSU.
Mhm.
But Melanie and Myron both Melanie went to Howard and Myron went to Central State, as well as you. And I went to an HBCU too, but it was in New York City. It was a community college, and most people don't kind of recognize it as HBCU. I
Really?
didn't even know it was when I was there. I didn't know it was when I was there because it was a community college, in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
and that's I didn't
What's the
plan for
name? What's the
anything like
name?
that. Well, it's called New York Tech right now, but it used to be called New York City Community College, right?
Nice.
So it's a predominantly black school,
Got it.
and then I was doing some research at HBCUs one time, and I saw it listed. So my kids kind of clowned me a little bit. It's that's not an HBCU, and it's not a 4-year school, you know what I mean? So, but that's where I met my bride, right? So,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
we're excited about that. But to answer your question about what I wanted out my kids to get, when they went to school, what I was thinking about was for them to think independently, right? To
Mhm.
be independent, right? We ground some stuff in them at home, and we wanted them to take that with them, right? And
Mhm.
taking that with them, was the basics of being honest, being and working hard and doing the best that you can, right? Because you're going
Yes.
to come in contact with different people, different cultures, different ideas, and you have to know who you are in order to not be overly influenced. Because everybody's influenced, right? We're all influenced, and
Yeah.
we're influenced from children to adults. No matter what age we are, we're influenced, right?
Absolutely.
So I learned that a long time ago that you're always influenced. Of course, in your early adult years, those influences have a long term impact because at the college age you may meet your spouse who
Mhm.
which I did, right, and that impacts the rest of your life, right? In your
Yes.
early college years, you might make a decision for your career, right? So if you have
Yes.
some solid foundation on some basic principles, then hopefully you can make a better decision, right?
Absolutely.
McNair, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can definitely make an informed decision there. Influence. I think that was something that stood out the most there. Um, well, let me ask you this: having your impact, what was some of the hurdles that you had to endure as you continue to have the Buckeye review and different things of that nature? Does pushback come from the community? Does it come from just the infrastructure in Youngstown? Does it come from just maybe lack of resources or just technology? What type of hurdles are you dealing with as it relates to the Buckeye review, as it relates to the changing times and different things of that nature, the people and the content
That's
that you put out?
yeah. That's a very good question. So and it's the answer is there are multiple hurdles, right? If I were guys, they boil down to a few basic ones, right? One is you have to keep up with the times, right? With technology, right? You have to change with the times. And that becomes a hurdle, it becomes a pushback, and it also becomes a requirement in order to keep going forward, right? So some people, and I've known people that say, okay, I can't keep up, so I'll fold, right? So you have to keep up with technology. Then you have the image thing, right? The way we process as African Americans, how we view ourselves. If we view ourselves positively, then we'll view our resources positively. But if we've been literally brainwashed by the dominant society, then we'll be discounted, right? Now, I understand why and how the dominant society discounts Black people and the Black businesses and press. You know what I mean? That's just part of American DNA, unfortunately. That's part of who we are.
Yes.
America has created a caste system, and they put Black folks at the bottom, right? Now, if I believe I'm at the bottom, then I have to think of myself higher than that, right? But I understand that others may look at me as less than. So it's an internal battle to build yourself up, right? And say, I am somebody. I am worthy of, this ad or this success or this contract. I am worthy to put out this information because I value it, I value myself, and I value my community. We need more people that do that because it's easy to get overwhelmed with the negativity, right?
Absolutely.
People, brothers getting killed in the streets by police, or brothers not getting contracts like they should.
Right.
I interviewed Mr. Cobbin, and I was just thinking about him the other day. Now, I don't know if you know Mr. Cobbin. He's from Youngstown. He was a Negro League baseball player, right?
Really?
Played for the Negro Leagues. Yeah, his name is James Cobbin. He lives right here in Youngstown. As a matter of fact, I'm going to interview him again shortly because there's going to be a big statue unveiled in April in Youngstown of they call it the Shuba handshake. 1947, after Jackie Robinson broke the color line, right? If you saw the movie, or read the history, he broke so he's the first brother in the major leagues, but nobody would speak to him. He was a great player, but they wouldn't speak to him.
Right.
Right. So he hit a home run, right?
Yes, sir.
And won the break, he hit a home run and he ran the bases. And when he came around the bases, one of the guy's name is Shuba, I think his name was George, and he's from Youngstown. He shook his hand as he crossed home plate. That was a big deal then. Just to shake his hand was a big deal because although he was there, he was a great player, they mistreated him because they mistreated. We were separate, right?
Right.
And the more you hear those stories, it's heart-rending to hear those stories, right? That was 1947. George Shuba shook his hand. Now, George Shuba is from Youngstown, right? So he shook Jackie Robinson's hand. There was a picture taken that was like the handshake that shook the sports world.
Really?
Yeah.
I have
George
to look
Shuba,
this up.
so they call it yeah. So anyway, so there's going to be a statue erected in downtown Youngstown, and they're raising money for it, and they're going to unveil the bronze statue of George Shuba and
that's April
Jackie Robinson.
2021, right?
Yes. I don't know the exact date. It might be April 1st, but I know it's in April.
Okay.
And they're going to unveil the statue, right? But the point I'm making is Mr. Cobbin was a player in the Negro Leagues too, right? And he, came, he got drafted. He got drafted and he served in the Army during Korea in the 50s. In the 50s, and he actually got drafted by the Pittsburgh baseball team. It was the Pittsburgh Pirates, right?
Yes.
And then he went to the Negro Leagues, I think, because he would get more playing time, and then he got drafted, and so he went overseas, and he actually played baseball in the Army because he was a professional player. You get drafted, you do what you do.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, the point that I'm making is about Mr. Cobbin himself. He's a phenomenal athlete, businessman. right? But when I interviewed him, he said, he'd have been a millionaire 10 times over if he were white. I said, he had a transportation company, but people would treat him differently. They treat him differently. He's successful, right? By any stretch of the imagination, he's successful. But if it weren't for the layers of discrimination laid on him just because of our caste system, he would be, probably 100 times more successful, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
talking to people like that, I want to make sure I get his perspective, in particular on the Shuba handshake, because I've
Got
been
it.
trying to figure out how do I feel about this. Because they're making Shuba the big deal because he shook his hand, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is, Robinson was one example of hundreds, yay, thousands of successful Black people that were
Paved
held
the way.
back
Yep.
from their potential because of these layers of discrimination. So
Absolutely. Great
um,
call outs.
yeah.
Great call outs. That was very thorough there. Couple things that stood out. Well, the word that stood out the most was requirements. Um,
Mhm.
you touched on it earlier in your intro, like, hey, financial literacy is mission critical. Um,
Mhm.
Financial literacy as it relates to you and just the upbringing of, you know, just being in your household. How important was that when it as it relates to having them have a mindset of possibly, yes, you go work for someone and get to experience different things of that nature, but how did you give or provide that mindset that when your children went out, they actually have a mindset of an entrepreneur mindset, not only entrepreneur mindset, but how money works, not only how money works, accumulating assets, different things of that nature.
Right, right. So we do this with a lot of young people. We did youth. We were youth. My wife and I were youth pastors too.
Yes.
But I think our discussion is with our example. You know, owning your own business, you have more freedom of movement, right?
Yes.
That's why, when Myron was in high school and my kids were in school, I was able to come to school anytime I wanted to. And
Mhm.
people knew I was there and I could, stop what I was doing and go because I wasn't tied to a 9 to 5, right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
the freedom of movement, the freedom of, using your finances the way you want to was important for us as a family, so we weren't tired to have to drive to Cleveland or Pittsburgh for a job. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that was important, but also to have people understand that freedom gets you to change the way you think, right, about a job. Use your job to get some skills to be able to build something for the future for yourself. Because most jobs will not prepare you for your future, right?
Mm,
It's what you do with your income that prepares you for the future. I mean,
mm.
you could have a great job, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters what you make. I was going to say it doesn't matter what you make, right? But it does
Right.
matter what you make, right? You have
Right.
to have a decent income, right?
Hmm.
But but the basics it's what you do with what you have that makes you successful, right? You have to like
Absolutely.
live below your means or don't live above your means, and try
Mm,
to manage your credit and try to not spend more than you take in. I mean, people in business do that a lot. You get your own business, you get contracts, you get all this money, but if you don't invest it back in your business, you'll be out of business. You know what I mean?
yes.
You can't pay your
Yes.
employees, you can't pay your supplies, you don't have any staying power. Most new businesses fail within 5 years, and that's an
Absolutely.
old stat. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that the newer numbers that people can stay in business longer now because of new technology.
Yeah.
We don't have to have an office anymore. You don't have to have a landline anymore. A lot of people
Hmm.
don't have secretaries. You know what I mean? Just things change,
Hmm.
change because of technology. So more people can be in business, and that's a good thing, right? Here's
Absolutely.
another thing that's good. The technology is such that people can be in business and they're not typecast necessarily because of the color of their skin. Because a
Hmm.
lot of times people won't see you, right? If you
Exactly.
provide a product, if you provide a product on Amazon, for example, you can import your product from China.
Great call outs.
and you manage it, right? You can get paid, and you won't have to deal with the stigma of, I don't know if they'll like me because I didn't wear my tie right, or I didn't wear
Exactly.
a tie, or because of the color of my skin. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm encouraging
Tattoos.
people to
Yeah.
use the technology, right? Use those technology tools to benefit yourself. So now when you earn, but again, the basics of managing your money, so you save some for the future, right? As long as you pay
Absolutely.
yourself first and save some future, then over the long period, you can build up a next, put money in stocks and mutual funds, and that's an insurance to build a portfolio for the future. Because a person can have a regular job,
Yes.
not be an entrepreneur, but if they use those basic principles, pay yourself first, and don't live above your means, you could still, retire comfortably, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But but because jobs are in the business of paying people as little as they can get away with,
Yes.
you know, no matter what your skills are, right? I mean, I'm guilty because when I hire people, I don't pay them as much as I can pay them. I pay
Right.
them as little as I can pay them to still get them. Right?
Business. Right. Business. Business. I definitely understand. So
Right. But but
absolutely.
but you can. But if you have it, and that was another reason why I wanted my kids to go to college, because college actually sets you up for better income. Most people that go to college have more income than those who don't. That's just a
Yes.
fact.
Yes.
We have the other facts of, just because you're black, you may have less income than someone who's not, but that's a fact of life that we just deal with.
Right.
Notwithstanding that, and the economy, when you look at the trends of the economy are such that people are paid less, they pay more for health insurance, and it's just hard for people to survive. My
Absolutely.
dad, my dad worked, didn't go to high school, and he worked at a grocery store,
Hmm.
right? Supermarket. He was, just kind of stock shelves, right?
Hmm.
And but he worked hard. He managed his money. He raised 5 kids, bought a house. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And did really well, right? And
Absolutely.
that was in the 40s and the 50s. That was in the 40s and the 50s. How much more can we do it now?
Right.
Here's the difference. Here's the difference. The economy has changed such that there's more wealth rising to the top, and it's harder for someone to work at Walmart, right, or a
Yep.
supermarket and
Exactly.
raise kids.
Hmm.
Now that's my dad did, but that was in the 50s, in the
Hmm.
40s and the 50s. You can't, because the economy has changed, you can't, just come out of high school and work at the supermarket and have a family, raise kids, buy a house. Just not
Right.
possible. So the economy has changed, right?
Hmm.
You know, so we
Man,
have to we have to be flexible enough, right, to deal with the
absolutely.
changes.
Absolutely. Man, very thorough response there. I know you have to go here. My last question. Um, Something you touched on when it comes to people being hired and not being able to stay connected to their dreams and goals because those jobs don't prepare you for that or help you stay connected to your dreams and goals. But the question I'm looking for is when, without giving away your secrets there, because when it comes to consulting, when you're doing marriage counseling, because a big number of marriages in that financial piece, people always touch on, when you're doing marriage
Right.
counseling, how are you able to, coach those couples into one, making good decisions for themselves, like the self-care piece, and then collectively
Right.
as a unit, being able to stay connected to their dreams and goals, separate, making sure that they invest in each other.
Woo, that's a great question. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, and it is complex as far as, because it's twofold. One is the individual piece, and the other is the collective piece, right? So when I'm dealing
Yes.
with couples, you know, they, marriage is about supporting one another. It's about becoming one, right? So you have
Yes.
two visions, and you have to create one vision, and that a vision for a couple does not negate individual desires and dreams for the husband and the wife, right? It doesn't
Yes.
negate that. It just adjusts, so we can support one another. We can help make each other's dreams come true. There's actually a therapeutic approach, and it's really an exercise that I give couples, right? And the
Yes.
title of it is Making Dreams Come True, right?
I
And
love
that's
it.
where basically you talk to each other, and talk about your deepest need, your desires from your childhood, your deepest fears, and really, because people don't talk and listen to each other very deeply, that's why they seek counseling. You
Yes.
do the same thing over and over again and you expect different results. But when you take the time to listen, you can hear, that, oh, there was a fear about finances, or a fear about or a dream about music, or whatever. You know what I mean? As
Mhm.
you drill down, and I said, well, I can, usually there's something that I can do for my wife, right, to help her in her dreams, and vice versa. Just it
Absolutely.
might be making space and time to be creative. It might be working together on a business plan, or a project,
Mhm.
that she's been thinking about, because I can help her just by thinking about that, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, one thing that I did with my marriage therapy, for example, my wife and I have done it for years, but we
Mhm.
did it as ministers in the church, right?
Yes.
But at some point, about maybe about 15 years ago, I ran into this research about evidence-based therapy on marriage, and I stumbled on a guy named John Gottman, who did this longitudinal research, and he could predict divorce, with 94% accuracy. Because he can look
Wow.
at you for about 30 minutes, look at you and your spouse for about 30 minutes, and determine whether you're going to be successful in your marriage, and whether you're going to stay together or divorce 10 years from now or 15 years from now, right?
Wow.
with with 94% accuracy. Now look him up. His name is John Gottman. He's a bad dude, right?
Do they
But
take a survey or
but
something? He just not just by
yeah,
looking. He don't look at no survey, no nothing. Just dialogue.
he you have to listen to a dialogue, three different conversations, 15 minutes each. But
Ah,
he had what's called a love had what's called a love lab, right? And he would
yes.
just watch facial expressions, responses, how they dealt
Ah,
with each other, how they did everything. But it took a while. It's a longitudinal study, takes a lot of research, a lot of time.
absolutely.
But because I stumbled onto that research, and I was disturbed, because, well, if you can predict divorce, well, then you should prevent it, right?
Exactly.
Don't just
Some
predict,
preventive
prevent it.
measures.
And right. So I'm mad. How come I'm reading this, and then, but I learned that he had to do the science to validate the prediction before he could do the prevention, right?
Mm,
So he did the work, and so I got excited about it, because my wife and I did marriage ministry. I said, man, I want to prevent divorce. I want people to do better. If this can help, I want to know, right?
right.
So my goal was to become certified in that approach. And my wife helped by making space for me to do extra training, and get that training. It was expensive and time consuming, but it was kind of cool,
Mhm.
because not too many people have that expertise. A lot of people have it, not too many black folks, but I'm one of them, right?
Right.
Um, and I think it's kind of cool. But one of the exercises, make each other's dreams come true, and we listen
Right.
to one another, and we can help one another do that. But it takes communication, compassion, and sensitivity to one another, right? You
Mhm.
gotta listen, you gotta care enough to listen. You can't just be going through the motions. And sometimes it's okay to get some help. You know what I mean? We've
Absolutely.
written a couple of columns like Black therapists are important. Getting therapy is important. It's not a bad thing to get therapy. We say, "Oh, I can handle my business. I don't need," you know what I mean? But the
Mhm.
truth is, everything that we know well, we study,
Mhm.
right?
That's a great call
Whether it's
out.
technology, cars, internet, computers, whatever you study. You study it all the time. You get the latest. So how is it going to get married and never study it?
Right.
It's going to be great. Well, you gotta study your spouse, and you get the latest. And the people that we work with, because we
Yes.
have informal groups of couples and we have individual stuff. And one of the best things that people can do is be involved in a group of people that are always learning. If you're
Ooh,
in the school of lifelong learning, you're gonna do well.
that's
You
mission
learn about your
critical.
marriage, you learn about your business, you learn about money, right? Learn about money.
Yes.
If you learn about money, then you do better with your money. If you learn about
Absolutely.
the economy, you'll do better, right?
Yes.
So I think that's the thing that helps us to help our dreams come true is to stay into a school of lifelong learning. And that's what I
Absolutely.
consider myself, this age. So
Absolutely. Certainly appreciate the information. A lot of gems there, a lot of things to unpack as well. If people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way of them reaching out to you? Is it more so like your LinkedIn account? Is it, through email? What method of, accessibility do you want people to have to you?
okay, sure. Well, they can reach out to me by way a couple of different ways, and it really depends on what their interest is, right?
Yes.
So if their interest is in marriage and marriage therapy, they can access the Gottman website, the Gottman referral network,
Okay.
and they'll find me, right? They'll find me, in Ohio. But if they're interested in things about the Black press in Youngstown, Warren, they can reach out to me by way of email at buckereview@yahoo.com.
Got it. Got it.
Um, I have several other emails addresses, but that one has been the most enduring. Buckeyereview@yahoo.com.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I love what you're doing. I want you to tell me more about Inspire and to Cultivate and what's going on in ATL. I mean, maybe I have to interview you at some point for our podcast.
Absolutely, no problem, no problem. Man, the most important piece about Inspire to Cultivate is I want to give people a outlet to be able to have or find someone that looks like them and be able
Mm,
to if especially if their character and personality matches that individual. And I'm starting
mm,
specifically with the Youngstown, back where I'm from, and cultivating those individuals, because not only once you inspire someone and get them out of that survival mode, it goes back to what you were saying. Once someone gets out of survival mode, now they're able to look at other avenues in life. Okay, maybe I can invest some money, or maybe I can buy a house, or maybe I can do this because I seen this person. I grew up with him. I went to high school with them. So Inspire to Cultivate is
right.
based on just those core values and those norms. That way we can continue to have more people and build Black and brown people and have more wealth in our community specifically. Not saying it wouldn't help other people outside of our culture, but that's the main purpose right now.
I love that. I love that. So I'm sure that we need to be connected because our goals are aligned with respect to encouragement and empowerment for the Black and brown community. And I love what you said, the fact that what we do for ourselves does not hinder any other community, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's the same thing, when we were fighting for freedom, when we were fighting for civil rights, right? It was the people say,
Yes.
"Oh, that was for Black folk." No, that was for human beings, right? If we all
Yeah.
treated equal, then we don't need any special. We don't need anything
But
special. We just want to be treated like everybody else. Let me just
absolutely.
say one more thing, just in case people are listening and they want to out, because I'm just started a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, a Friday night book review, right?
Really.
So I do a Friday night book review on Zoom, and I may start doing it as a podcast and do it on YouTube. I haven't done that yet, but if people were interested, I can invite them to participate. The book that we're reading now is by Isabel Wilkerson, and the title of it is Caste, the origins of our discontent.
Mm.
And basically, it's about how did we come to are now, our country being so divided and so much racial animus, right? And it talks about the caste system. And it's really a powerful book. The book that we did just before this one, we just started this one and we do one chapter a week. The one that we did before this one was called White Too Long. And my particular passion right now, because I'm also a minister, is the fact that there is an answer to all of this turmoil in our society. And it's not going to come from the government, right?
Exactly. Great
It's
call
not going
out.
to come, but it should come from the church or people who say that they are believers, right?
Hmm.
So I'm calling on believers to let's study our history and figure out how we should be doing more of what we're called to do. Because when we do that, everyone benefits. Everyone
Absolutely.
benefits. We're doing our passion. We're doing our dreams. We're better. We live better. We love better. We're
Yes.
healthier. We take care of ourselves. And so that
Absolutely.
Friday night book review is more like, oh, let's get some more information about our history, and it empowers us to answer the question, how did we get here? How did we get here? Oh, it's not so different. And we're not so divided now that we weren't in the past. Because when we look at our history, we've always been divided.
Great
Right?
call
It's
out.
not new.
It's
It may
it,
feel new, but it's not.
exactly. And what was her last name? Isabella
Wilkerson,
Wilkerson.
Isabel Wilkerson. I think it's on Oprah's, bestseller list or something like that. The name of it, the book is Caste, Caste.
Yes.
The subtitle, Origins of Our Discontent. And if anyone was interested, they can email me and I could send you an invitation to join our Friday night Zoom call for the book review. All
I
right.
love it. I love it. I
So
love it.
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure you're going to have people reaching out for that, most definitely so. And then any other important information that you want me to include, just let me know there. But I definitely want to make sure we put that email address. I also want to make sure that I find a hyperlink or a URL to, got me there. Last name is spelled, how you spell his last name when it
Gottman.
comes
Oh, it's Gottman.
two
Gottman.
T's. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So if they was
Gottman.
to,
Gottman Referral Network. Yeah.
right. Okay.
Gottman.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
got it. All right, all right. So we definitely got that. Any last second things you
Uh,
want to throw out there? Anything you forgot?
So our website is buckeyereview.org, buckeyereview.org, so they can find, our articles on our website. We try to update it, as frequently as we can. And my wife does a mental health column, and we do a marriage column. I do an editorial on politics, and it's always local news. So that's kind of cool. BuckeyeReview.org, and then we're also connected to the NNPA or the Black Press USA. So,
Absolutely.
uh, that's make sure you can reach it. Check out our website, or check me out if you want to do marriage stuff, or just check us out for Friday nights for our book review stuff. And we want to connect to what you're doing too, because we have people on our call now from all over the country. Right
Okay.
now, it's not a lot, but Colorado, Florida, other places like that. Just started. My heartbeat is that we have some healing to do,
Mm,
but it comes from a lack of information, or we've been falsely fed bad information about who we are. Not
right.
just who we are as Black people, but who we are as white people, who we are as American.
Yeah.
We bought into a lie, right? So if we
Mm,
keep living the lie, we repeat the problems.
absolutely.
We can't fix it. We can't fix it unless we change our thinking. So,
Absolutely.
school of lifelong learning. That's where we live.
You know what? It's something. It was something that you haven't touched on much. Is health. As it relates to the Black and brown people, as what we consume, different things by nature. How much of that tie into making good decisions? Back to your psych days, different things by nature. Does health or what you eat tie into making good decisions? What are your thoughts there?
actually, what you think about will your decisions about what you eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it comes back to being in the school of lifelong learning. If because our habits can't change unless we change what we think about,
Mm.
right? So I can't decide to eat more green vegetables or drink more water, and deep breathing. These are healthy things that are easy to do.
Right.
But if no one's in my circle talking about it, then
Yes.
uh, then I'm not going to do it. I'll eat more potato chips and more sugar, and more cheese. You know what I mean? And I like all of that, but it's not as good for us. So if you're in a circle where more people are saying, hey, let's maybe monitor our calories, maybe we should exercise more, or you know what I mean, as you're in those circles, those nurturing circles, like you have followers, right? So people that are listening to you might say, hey, might pick up some information about eating right, or about dieting correctly, about exercising more, and each one of those things, because there's a lot of them, right? And we
Absolutely.
can't do them all suddenly,
Mm-hmm.
but if we can do one or two, add one or two, and
Ooh,
it could change our life.
I like that. I like
Just
how.
like if we just talk about water, for example,
Yes.
right? Water is important. It's mostly made up of water. And you talk to people say, oh, I don't drink much water. Well, when you start thinking about how important water is for our metabolism, for
Mm-hmm.
our bowel movements, for our skin, for all of our organs need water,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if we just drink more water, we'll be healthier, right?
Absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
just one thing. That's just one thing, right?
That small adjustment. Exactly. Exactly. I love how you tied it back into influence. What you stated earlier. Your ceiling is going to be, if your ceiling is going to be the people that pretty much people around you. So if you're like, I don't know, if it's 9 broke people, you're going to be the 10th broke person. If it's 10 millionaires, you most likely will be a millionaire, just because the expectations and your norms and different things, that nature of beliefs change. You have that mindset. So I like how you tied that back
Right.
into influence there. Great call out. Great call out.
Right. Right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, Maurice, and I just want to encourage you to keep it up, man. And I want to connect with what you guys are doing, and so we're better together, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And certainly appreciate your time this evening as well. Stay safe, stay healthy. And man, I love you, man. I appreciate your time.
God bless you. Take care, man. Stay in
Likewise.
touch.
Thanks again.
Inspire to cultivate.